Madam Speaker, I rise to make my contribution in support of this bill before this Honourable House, Appropriation 2025 Bill 2024, to be able to lend my support. Second the bill, right? Before this Honourable House. Before I begin and get into the substance of my presentation, Madam Speaker, I want to take the opportunity to commend the member from Constituency 8, our Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, for his presentation yesterday. I thought it to be very detailed and informative in terms of the facts of where we are at as a government. Madam Speaker, this Labour Party administration is really at work. You would have heard from the member's presentation all of the major investments that have been made into the people of St. Kitts and Nevis just in the 2 years that we have been in government. And I think it's, tremendous the amount of investments that we've been able to make in the 2 short years, Madam Speaker. From the presentation from the Prime Minister yesterday, we would have heard about investments in, very essential things, Madam Speaker. Investments where we would have spent a lot of big money, millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, which were spent this year in making sure that we invest in projects and opportunities that, in fact, secure our nation's existence for now and for the future. Because, as you know, sustainability is the strategic vision and the plan for this administration. That's the direction we're going in with our Sustainable Island State agenda. So we would have heard the PM talk about spending over hundreds of millions of dollars in water. For example, water essential for life. So now we have, we can boast of making sure, don't forget, that we now have 24/7 water in Keon. You're from Keon, Madam Speaker. That's a success that we cannot forget. I know sometimes in politics we can forget things, but I want us to be reminded. I want us to be reminded of the major investments in these very big ticket structural basic items to ensure that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis have what they need to maintain and develop a great quality of life. So we invested in water, put on water in Keon, 24-hour water now, something to boast about. It's a fact. We invested in roads, Madam Speaker, across St. Kitts and Nevis. We would have seen investment in roads, but of course, the very big road project that's, coming near to completion, which I'm actually very proud of because I'm from St. Peter's, is the St. Peter's Road. Major projects. And Madam Speaker, you have to be from St. Peter's to know that every time I drive on this road now, it's like, a little feeling inside, because it's like, this was just a dream. For some people, you couldn't even imagine a roundabout being up Monkey Hill. Can you believe that? We have a roundabout now, and it's big and it's fancy. And the road's smooth. So it's really a pleasure to know that, these investments are being realized for the good people of St. Kitts and Nevis, especially in the great state of Constituency 8. Of course, we heard about the sporting facilities. We saw the big grand sporting facility that's, near to completion. That's near to completion in Connery. Madam Speaker, again, major money, millions of dollars of investment into these very essential, very basic infrastructure projects that are necessary for community development, for our human and social development, for our posterity, Madam Speaker. And so, hundreds of millions of dollars spent in these areas. And, I want to commend this government. I want to commend the ministers responsible who would have made it very possible. But, of course, big commendation to the member from number 8, because, he is also my parliamentary representative. And a number of these projects which were promised have been delivered by the member for number 8 for the people of number 8. And, it's truly, truly commendable to see the fruits of the hard work of this government and the support to the people. Madam Speaker, of course, you would have heard about investments in housing, to say that we have actually built, in fact, 117 houses as part of and the start of the housing solutions revolution that was promised by the SKNLP is truly commendable. So, I must commend the Minister of Housing for that, because we have been able, through the NHC, to help with the sport of building houses on land that persons already had the title to, from what I understand. And this is just the start of, the housing solutions that will be delivered. We heard from the presentation for the member for number 8 yesterday about the number of houses that we expect to see take off in Otley's, in St. Peter's, and in other constituencies around St. Kitts, Madam Speaker. And so, these investments, again, they may not have, a sense of immediate return, but these are investments that are made into very vital infrastructure, very vital institutional things that will outlast persons who are here now and persons who come after us. And so, great commendation to this government and the ministers who have been at work in those areas. Madam Speaker, again, from the presentation yesterday, it was very astounding to kind of see the value of investment in human and social development. And, that's something that certainly stood out to me, of course, being minister responsible for human and social development. To be exact and to quote, was $320 million cumulatively, collectively, is spent on social subsidies and programs. So social subsidies, Madam Speaker, we're talking about things like, the subsidies we put into electricity, in terms of the FBC that is saved, that is, the consumers do not have to pay. That is something that is borne by the government through SKELEC. Subsidies on the cost of gas, because we would have tried to cushion our people from, escalating costs in terms of petrol. We know social subsidies are provided. The PM likes to speak very proudly of the Children's Medical Fund, which is money put aside. And I just want people to know the cost for medical services, especially overseas, is significant. It truly, truly is. So when we hear members in this House talking about, the upset that they would have to see parents having to go on with sponsor sheets to raise amounts of money that they likely will not raise to save their children's lives, it really is a true thing, because medical assistance is something that's offered through the Department of Social Services, and the figures are significant. We can only help so much, but it truly is a lot of money, and when it comes to children's care, it actually escalates in price, interestingly enough. So the fact that, the Prime Minister, through his office, in partnership with the Ministry of Social Development, provides a children's medical fund also as part of the social subsidies and interventions to support our people is very significant. Of course, we know about the programs and the dedicated investments that have gone into innovative programs to support and to establish a very strong social protection ecosystem. I'm talking about programs like the LIFT, which would have been a promise from the Ministries of Social Development and Gender Affairs in terms of the transition from PAP. A significant amount of investment is continued to be placed there. We know that Elevate, which used to be the Peace Program, has also transformed and has been transitioned to Elevate with more innovative programming that seeks to transform and empower the lives of persons who might have been at risk of entering lives of crime and violence. And we also, of course, know of our most recent new innovative program, the investment in the Aspire program, which is targeted to all children and young people between the ages of 5 and 18 as one of these innovative programs to help to, resist, as we say, shift the trajectory in terms of poverty, and really help to empower our people from very early on by providing them with savings and investments, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this innovation in our social programming required the investments that have been made because, of course, as any St. Kitts Labour Party administration, we really hear about trying to help and support the masses. The St. Kitts Labour Party was born out of struggle. So we understand struggle, and we understand what it means to have to help to cushion people from the struggle that is just experienced as just outside of our control in terms of shocks. And, we would have heard the speakers before talk about the shock of inflation, which is an inevitability outside of the control of government. We cannot stop it. We can only help our people to manage it. And so the $320 million investment in social assistance, in social subsidies and programming is really what we are committed to doing, is what we have committed to doing to ensure that we target those who are most vulnerable and those who are most at risk. Is what we invest in to ensure that we can truly help to transform and empower the lives of people, not only those who earn the least, but also those who are at the end of their working life. We cannot forget the investments made into creating an entirely new pension scheme, Madam Speaker. Again, this is the commitment to the aging and to our seniors' enrichment and our commitment to making sure that persons age with dignity, making sure that people have a pension that they can go home to, even though they were not fully appointed into a government service, Madam Speaker. Again, investments. All of this counts to the investments, investments. And these are investments that, this administration, we came into government, we saw, we understood, the challenge of the people, the struggle, because we understand struggle as a Labour Party. We understand struggle. And so we want to make sure that people have some kind of cushion. We can't stop the reality of inflation. We cannot stop the reality of external shocks to our development as a small island developing federation. But we can try our best as a government administration to listen, to hear, and to be responsive to the people by investing in them, investing in all of us as a collective, so that we all feel some level of cushioning from just the realities of what's happening in the globe. And of course, in doing all of this, we are, of course, doing it in a way that is wise and that is sustainable. We recognize that with the level of investment in social programs, we don't want to just be investing in cash transfers, but we also want to be able to invest in people's empowerment through their education and awareness building that will help all of us to be a lot wiser in the way that we manage the few resources that we have, in making sure we manage the government, treasury, and the budget, but also in helping others manage their own personal funds and expenses, which is why for the Aspire program, we ensured that there is a financial literacy component that the Ministry of Education is fully on board with, Madam Speaker. Of course, just to add in terms of, the other areas where we would have heard the member from number 8, our Prime Minister, present on yesterday in terms of investments, healthcare. When we think about social protection, you can also consider healthcare within that basket, and a significant amount of money is invested in healthcare. We know that's a passion of the Prime Minister, and so quite a bit has also been invested there with the provision of new equipment and machinery. And so we look forward to hearing and seeing how our hospital continues to improve in that regard, because health is a very important part of our human and social development. It's essential for our well-being, of course. Now, Madam Speaker, from the list of investments and all of the accomplishments that we would have heard from the Prime Minister that we know in fact to be the case, again, we reiterate 24/7 water in Keon, we have equipment in healthcare, we have new road in St. Peter's, we increased the minimum wage, created a whole new pension scheme for government auxiliary workers. We have broken ground, started building homes in multiple constituencies, Madam Speaker. A lot. Roads, of course, sporting complexes. Madam Speaker, we do all of this in 2 years. No, seriously, it's mind-boggling to me, but not really, because it is be here, working hard, showing up to every meeting. I'm the queen of the early crew, in case you did not know. Queen. See, when the leader of government business is watching, because he knows I'm a queen, right? So, and I just said that to say that, we're serious. We're serious about our people's development. This administration, we're very serious about the people's development, and we really, really want to understand the plight of the people to be able to be responsive. And it may seem and appear as if we are slow in being responsive to the people, but it's not that at all. It's that we've had to make some very significant investments in some key areas that might not translate immediately in terms of, feeling it in your pocket or seeing it on, your dining table. But we've had to make very significant investments because the reality is, under the former administration, which was in fact led by the member from number 7, there was nothing. There was nothing happening, Madam Speaker. And, it mind boggles me, right? What mind boggles me is that, we heard again from the presentation from the member from number 8, the Prime Minister, yesterday, how he talked about just the accounting of the past under the former administration. We heard about how they talked a lot about surplus after surplus. Yet, Madam Speaker, when we look at, do the forensics in the accounting, and I have it here, I quote, $333 million. $333 million is left unaccounted for from the Development Bank. That's the People's Bank, Madam Speaker. The People's Bank. I had a student loan, Madam Speaker. Thanks to God for this job, I was able to pay off that student loan most recently. Celebrate that for me. But, Madam Speaker, $333 million. That's a lot of money. This, I can't even fathom that money in my mind. But, Madam Speaker, being here in government, understanding, the budgetary process and hearing the millions of dollars, $320 million is what we have spent in government subsidies and programming, yet the people are saying it's not enough, right? However, there is $333 million that's left unaccounted for from the past administration that nobody knows what this money is. $333 million, that is a level of thievery that I cannot even begin to fathom.
What thievery mean, like your teeth?
Like that, listen. Just saying, for proper, assembly language. May not in here calling the body a thief. I am just simply stating, there's no attacks here. These are simply statements of fact, $333 million unaccounted for. Yet there were no investments in water. There were no investments in electricity. There were no investments in the level of housing development that we were expecting, yet this money is gone. We just don't know where it is. PM says all the time, poof. I don't know what that even means, but that's my question, ultimately. I really want to know where the money gone? Where the money there? $333 million unaccounted for. I can't even begin to fathom it and understand. And not only, Madam Speaker, to add insult to injury, is that not only is the money missing, but they lied, Madam Speaker. Surplus after surplus, yet, Madam Speaker, when we came into government as an administration with our good governance agenda, we come in expecting to find a surplus, and there was no money. Where the money gone? Where the money? There's no money, Madam Speaker. And so, I sit eagerly and anxiously at the edge of my seat waiting to hear, the wrap-up because, the PM did say he had some information because we want to know where the money and what we're going to do about it. This thievery that took place under the former administration. Again, Madam Speaker, I'm not here to make any attacks, simply stating matters of fact. Okay? So, but I digress, Madam Speaker, and I simply wait to hear from the Honourable Member from number 8 as to what the follow-up into this episode is going to be. It's like a movie, can you believe? $333 million missing from the government treasury under the former administration. In debt. At Development Bank, yet we cannot trace this debt yet. So we're waiting to hear. Madam Speaker, as it relates to the ministries for which I have direct responsibility, that is social development, gender affairs, youth empowerment, aging and disabilities, I want to begin and first express, gratitude for all of the work and efforts of all of the staff who work in the various departments of these ministries. Over the past year, the staff have really come together to deliver on the vision that was shared, to get on board in terms of making sure we can achieve and do our part as it relates to the Sustainable Island State agenda, which is ensuring that we have a very strong social protection system. And so I want to, express great thanks and gratitude to all of the, management and staff across these two ministries, because you really have worked hard, and I'm very pleased with the delivery of work. Last year at the start, this year, 2024, at the start of the year, I would have connected with all of the departments and management and expressed, I had three primary objectives and goals for us to accomplish within this year. And those three things were, of course, to see how we can go through the PAP to LIFT transition as smoothly as possible in terms of the programmatic changes and reform for that program. The second thing was to expand our seniors' day programming. And the third thing was an infrastructure project to see how we can make sure we get back into the original location at New Horizons, Madam Speaker. Now, when it comes to the transition from PAP to LIFT, I believe we were quite successful in implementing that. The challenge was, of course, to bring the program down to a more manageable budget, a more manageable number of persons on it, and to also digitize to improve the efficiency, the transparency, and the delivery of services, and also to ensure that we can bring back case management so persons can receive some support outside of the cash transfer directly. And so, Madam Speaker, I would say we were quite successful. Shout out to the Department of Community Development and Social Services within the Ministry of Social Development for the very hard work that was undertaken to make sure that we were able to transition from PAP to LIFT and to be able to manage the numbers and manage the budget in a way that we did not have to come back for an advance warrant. We were able to do that. We were also able to increase the community development outreach from the Department of Community Development to make sure that we can continue to connect and engage with persons in the community. Digitization of the delivery of our social services was also part and parcel of that programmatic transformation. So I want to give thanks to the Ministry of IT for their support in helping us to transition our programming. We now have online applications. We also want to thank the proprietors of JAD Cash for also working with us as part of the delivery of our school uniform assistance program. That's one of the programs that also has been transitioned to be a digital platform so persons can receive the benefit quickly and more efficiently. When it comes to aging, Madam Speaker, we were certainly successful in expanding our seniors enrichment program by starting seniors day program in an additional 3 communities. So now our seniors meet in communities including Sandy Point, Tabernacle, and Otley's. We would have originally started that programming in St. Peter's, East Bastia, and St. Paul's. And so I'm very pleased and proud to know that we were able to, and we will be coming to Central. I am very pleased that we were able to expand as we promised in those areas, and the commitment remains for us to continue maintaining these programs in 2025. I must say that the numbers for these programs, we on average typically have about at least 25 persons at each program. Just a reminder to folks, it is open, it's free for any able-bodied senior who is able to get to the community center where these programs are being held, and so we are always open and encourage any new persons. This is an opportunity to ensure our seniors continue to age well, to age with dignity, and get some sort of interaction, which is actually good for their mental and social health and well-being. In relation to disability, Madam Speaker, we would have heard it mentioned in the movers' presentation that we are moving steadily along with alacrity, it's a word the member from number 9 likes to use, on consultations in order to finalize the draft of our national disability policy. So that work has certainly started and is near completion. I anticipate and expect that we'll come back to this Honourable House in 2025 to table those documents. This is something that persons living with disabilities from the community have been advocating for a number of years. And so I'm really pleased to be part of the administration that has helped to bring this to fruition for persons in the community, especially since this budget, as you can see, is focused on inclusivity. And so this is part and parcel of that commitment. When it comes to youth, Madam Speaker, youth engagement, I'm very pleased with all of the work that the Department of Youth Empowerment was able to complete and get done this year. We were able to increase visibility and engagement with young people. Our summer camp, which I believe everybody knows, actually increased. We had an increase in the number of campers of 25% this year. The number of campers who signed up for summer camp increased by 25%. We went from 200 last year to 250 in 2024. And so we want to thank all the volunteers who come out to really help us manage our summer camp and implement and execute that. I think summer camp is a really great opportunity for children to be able to find something positive and something edifying to do during the summer months. That's 2 weeks out of the summer months, and it is one of the flagship programs for the Ministry of Youth Empowerment in the department. And so we want to thank the parents for putting their trust in us. So we look forward to hosting that again, 2025. This year we also would have hosted a National Youth Congress and a National Independence Youth Rally. Madam Speaker, the Department of Youth Empowerment decided to add these activities to the calendar because we recognize, especially now in light of the transition and the paradigm shift that is taking place, that we really need to have our young people engaged and involved, particularly on some very important and key issues and social problems that we're facing, specifically violence and crime, climate change and sustainability, and mental health, Madam Speaker. And these 3 topical areas have actually been primary to a lot of the engagements that the Department of Youth Empowerment has been implementing and executing with the young people. We brought these young people together for the Youth Congress to discuss violence and crime, particularly looking at it from a public health issue. We would have had them at the National Youth Rally again. We would have seen them advocating around peace and security because, unfortunately, by that time we would have heard of the murder of the young child who was with the adults in the countryside that were found dead in the vehicle. Again, a casualty from gun crime. And so our young people are listening, Madam Speaker, and they are aware of what is happening. And so if we're looking for solutions, we cannot neglect to ensure that they are part and parcel of the conversation. And of course, climate change and sustainability, kudos to the Ministry of Climate Action and Environment for hosting a National Youth Congress, again, that focused specifically on climate change. Sustainability and the SDGs is a framework that underpins all of the work for the Department of Youth Empowerment. I always encourage the youth officers to frame any activity within the Sustainable Development Goals. And one of the things that came out around making sure we can create sustainable cities and settlements is mental health. That seems to be a big topical area for our young people. And so most recently, during Youth Month, mental health was the theme. And I would have had an engagement with the young people around healthy coping mechanisms and ways to manage mental health. And so, Madam Speaker, I extend very big congratulations and kudos to the Department of Youth Empowerment, Disability Services, Seniors Enrichment, Community Development, and Social Services, and those departments for the work that they've really been doing over the past year. I want to say regarding capital projects, so like you would have heard, I said top three things, one of the things was to make sure that we could return to New Horizons. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that this year, but works have started at the original Harris's location. So I'm happy to report that renovation works have started, and we are committed to seeing this work to completion for however long that will take. But of course, we are continuing to try our best to manage the residents. I don't like to call children juveniles, but the residents who we currently have under our care at our temporary location. We continue to work on managing that, and we are grateful for the support of the staff at New Horizons. I know it hasn't been easy, but I want to also just give a shout out and kudos to the staff for managing as best that they can there. One of the major capital projects we've also been working on is, we have maintenance or upgrades of community centers, Madam Speaker. The K-On Community Center is one that I've gotten a lot of questions about, even from yourself as a resident of the community. I just want to say that when it comes to the K-On Community Center, it's unfortunate that I'm not able here to bring the great news that we are ready to reopen the community center at this point. And it's not because we haven't done the works, Madam Speaker. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you all of the work that we have done at the K-On Community Center. As of, this would have been the start of the last quarter of this year. We would have done renovations to the roof. We've sealed the roof. We've replaced the water tanks. We have removed old bookshelves that were moldy. We've replaced bathroom stalls. We have painted inside, outside. We have changed the cistern, emptied the cistern, cleaned the cistern, changed the cistern, reconnected the cistern. Madam Speaker, we've done all the things. However, the issue with that right now is when we have gone to do, we did a test and remediation of the air quality. When we went back to do the test and remediation of the air quality, after all of these works, the levels of the air quality is still very high. Madam Speaker, this is mind-boggling to everyone. It's mind-boggling to the Bureau of Standards, who knows that we have done the work. It's mind-boggling to the workers who have been in and out cleaning. It's mind-boggling to the cleaners. It's mind-boggling to all of us as to what accounts for such high levels of poor air quality at this community center. And it's not just inside, Madam Speaker, it's also outside. The levels are also very high outside. And so since that last reading, which I believe came in late October, we have sought to engage the Bureau of Standards, Environmental Health, the remediation team and the businesses to be able to, Public Works as well, to go in as a group to see what else needs to be done, what else can be done. This is an anomaly for us, and so we continue to seek the public's cooperation and their patience. It's not for lack of trying. Like I said, every single work that has been needed and necessary for the K-On Community Center to refurbish it, to renovate it, has been done. At this point, it's a matter of the air quality, which we are still trying to figure out. And I believe, thanks to the consultation that we had, the national consultation on air quality, I would hope that persons have a little bit more understanding and grace when it comes to issues of mold being in building and how we have to, the things we have to do to remediate that. So we're in the process. So, but even with that, I do want to just give a special shout out to the staff person, the cleaner, who is actually stationed at the K-On Community Center. It's a woman, I can't remember her name right now, but she's very dedicated to making sure that the works that have been done at the K-On Community Center, that it's maintained well. Still very committed to making sure. And Parks and Beaches always still shows up to make sure that the grass is cut. So I just want to give the commitment and reassurance to the people of K-On that even though we haven't been able to reopen because of the air quality, at this point in time, we stay committed to ensuring that the building is maintained and well kept, because we do intend and have every expectation that we will be able to utilize the space, because it is a community space and the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs is responsible for maintaining community centers. So For the amount of investments we've made there, we want to make sure that we have the people in place to maintain it from the community. So thank you very much to the cleaner who is at Keon. She does a very good job. And Parks and Beaches, thank you for your continued work there. So, Madam Speaker, those are the two capital projects. We continue in 2025. We do have budget for our continued maintenance of community centres. I know this year, recently, we would have put out to have the windows at multiple community centres around the island replaced. And so we have been waiting to receive bids or to put out bids for that work because that would be a substantial amount of work to be done in terms of replacing the windows for community centres around St. Kitts. That's the next aspect that we're working towards for this year. Madam Speaker, for 2025, the recurrent budget for the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs, Youth Empowerment, Aging and Disabilities, the budgets are being maintained around the same levels as last year. The Prime Minister, in his presentation, would have mentioned that we have small increases across the board of about 1.5%, which is true. This year, the budget for social development is $41.7 million. It's about $500,000 more than it was last year. Last year, we had a budget of $4.2 million. In youth, aging, and disabilities, we also have a small increase. Our budget this year is $3.1 million. Last year, it was $2.9 million. And so, always grateful for anything. Anything extra is nice. However, technically, we are maintaining. We expect to maintain the investments that are made, but the focus this year, of course, first will be focused on improving what we are able to deliver and provide for people as it relates to responding to the needs for social protection. Madam Speaker, social protection can be very broad. When we hear social protection, we can contextualize that similar to how it was presented yesterday in relation to right now the shock that we're facing across the world is the shock of inflation. That is the hike in prices that refuse to come back down. And we're feeling it. Both the mover and the presenter from the opposition would have spoken quite in depth about inflation and the reality of inflation, that it's something that this government, no government can control. We cannot stop it. We cannot change it. We can only help more people to manage it. And so I was quite pleased to hear about the budget boost wallet that the Prime Minister announced, the member from number 8 announced, as a temporary social protection initiative to help ease the squeeze of global inflation, Madam Speaker. Now, inflation as a developmental shock certainly does require governments to act. And we're seeing governments around the world trying to do different things. But here, of course, in St. Kitts and Nevis, we're lucky to have a St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party government in administration right now. Because, Labour Party governments have always been responsive to the struggle and the needs of people. And so with that, the budget boost wallet that was announced is actually quite a great initiative, because this is a benefit that recognizes that, it's more persons outside of those who earn the least that really feeling the squeeze still. The external squeeze, the squeeze that we don't have any control over, which is inflation. Remember, the shock we're talking about is inflation. And so with this budget boost wallet that was announced, it's targeted to help persons earning less than $5,000 in salary. That's your base salary. So when it was announced, I already had some questions. We're like, which salary? But, it's your base salary. It's the earnings that are reported to Social Security. So if you earn less than $5,000, you are able to receive this social protection benefit. And And, again, it is being provided by the government because we recognize and we hear the struggle that people are feeling, struggle that people, not only people who earn minimum wage, Madam Speaker, because this is how impactful global inflation is, that everybody is feeling it, Madam Speaker. I mean, I just feel it too, Madam Speaker. I'm a single person. I go to the supermarket and, I buy 8 things and it comes to $400. My heart just keep a beat and I have to be like, oh, my chest at the checkout. Seriously. It's for real. So, Madam Speaker, I'm just, listen, the member from number 9 trying to be all up in my business. Yes, I am single. So let's move on. Thank you. So the budget boost wallets, which is intended to support more persons. So we're not just, the administration would have, done some things to help ease the burden already. We increased minimum wage to try to target those who earn the least in society so that they have more purchasing power. But even outside of that, Madam Speaker, the rate of inflation and the cost of living is so high that even persons within the middle class are really struggling still, Madam Speaker. So those who are earning $4,500 and you could live a nice comfortable life here in St. Kitts and Nevis, everybody feeling it, Madam Speaker. We all feeling it. And because of that, because this administration is one that understands struggle and we want to be responsive to the people, we've come up with an initiative that seeks to really help to cushion the impact, to cushion the shock of this hurricane of inflation that is plaguing all of us, states all across the region. Inflation, something that we cannot control. And so that is what we mean when we talk about being inclusive, Madam Speaker, when we talk about policy for the people. Right, Madam Speaker? So I hope people can consider and recognize the innovation that this government has in being able to try to respond to the social and developmental needs of our people. And I would really hope that with the implementation of this initiative, that it is well received and that the efforts can be appreciated. Because based on quick data from Social Security, this initiative stands to support and help benefit over 22,000 people, Madam Speaker. That is how many earners we have of persons who earn less than $5,000. This is, not just, those who are in lower income brackets, but those in the middle class too, because everybody feeling it, and we want to be responsive. We want to be responsive to help cushion and support persons from the shock of global inflation, something that we cannot stop, something that we cannot help, something that we did not cause. However, as a responsible and responsive Labour Party government, we are here to help people manage it, Madam Speaker. So, I am happy to join the member from number 8 as we talk about this investment budget, because we're all about investing in the people and powering progress. Because it really, for me, really helps to support and buttress the way I think about the vision for the ministries for which I have responsibility for 2025, Madam Speaker. With a budgeted amount in recurrent expenditure that's pretty much the same as it was last year, it gives us, not as much room to do additional or extra new things. However, Madam Speaker, I do believe that the work that we've been doing through the ministries to support human and social development is significant. I believe the programming that we have established is valuable. However, I do believe we can always look internally to see how we can improve what we're already doing. How can we do what we already do better? How can we ensure that we are more responsive to the people? How can we ensure that we deliver better customer service, that the experience of persons who seek out social protection is more positive, is more dignifying, is more responsive. How do we do that? How do we do that better? How do we improve our programming so that it is more accessible, so that it is more impactful, so that it's more beneficial to empowering people and lifting people out of poverty, Madam Speaker? How do we ensure that we deliver on our mandates of sustainability, of our mandate of social protection, of sustainable social protection? How do we do that? And Madam Speaker, I believe we need to do that through partnerships. And so for 2025, I would say that the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs, Youth Empowerment, Aging and Disabilities, our focus is going to be on improving in all areas. We want to focus on people, we want to focus on programming, and focus on strengthening, improving, and creating new partnerships. This is how I believe we will be able to strengthen our social protection ecosystem. So, Madam Speaker, when it comes to people, of course, we are talking about inclusivity. We want to focus on making sure that the experience of the majority of people who come to social services, that their experience is one of care and compassion, one that is provided with some case management. Madam Speaker, what I understand is that under the former administration, the directive to social services was to stop case management. No, as somebody who works in social policy, that was a little bit confusing to me. I don't understand how you can have social services and no case management. So I was like, no. That's not going to happen anymore. We're going back to case management delivery, and this is something that we have been working with staff in the department to be able to improve on, to get some training on, because case management is absolutely important if we're looking to really empower people beyond just giving them handouts. We need to understand people's cases, understand the nuances of their situation to be able to identify which programs, which interventions is best suited to assist. And so case management delivery is an area that we are looking to improve on. It's an area that we're looking to make sure that we show up to be able to be more responsive to the persons who we currently serve on the multitude of social programs that we deliver through the Department of Social Services, because that is how I believe we will be able to be more responsive to the people and be more inclusive in our approaches. Programming. We want to be more innovative in our program delivery. And so for the programs, the flagship programs that we currently have, the programs that are being funded through our recurrent expenditure, we're always in discussion around how we can improve the efficiency and delivery of our programs through digitization. We have seen how that has been successful in the way that we implemented LIFT with online applications, making that more accessible, with information management system that allows the case workers and those reviewing applications to check. And we've also seen how digitization through the use of different digital and electronic platforms can help with removing stigmas around social service programs, such as using JAD-Cash. We decided to use JAD-Cash for the delivery of our school uniform assistance program. And we continue to be in consultation and conversations with stakeholders around what else we can do to be able to be innovative in the way that we administer our programs, but also in making program policy adjustments so that we can target those who are most vulnerable to make sure that the safety net is available for those who need it the most. And with all of that, with our programming and our thrust to be innovative, we want to, of course, continue with the improvement of data collection and analysis in terms of the questions and the surveying that we do to those who benefit from our programs. Madam Speaker, when it comes to sustainability, partnerships, I believe, is very important for that. If we want to be sustainable and create a social safety net that truly is resilient, we need to do so with partnerships. The ministries, a lot of our work is done with the support of non-governmental agencies, community-based organizations, multilateral agencies and partners, and we want to be able to maintain this support that is offered, whether that's in kind or in technical assistance or in direct funding. We recognize the value of partnerships for the sustainability of our programming and interventions. And so partnerships is something that we want to continue to build, to strengthen, and to create new ones. I believe partnerships is also very important just for our functioning, our effective and efficient functioning as government as well. So that's how we'll be able to achieve sustainability. I don't think we can be sustainable without partnerships. And so people, programming, and partnerships, Madam Speaker. We talk about people, we're talking about inclusivity, we talk about programming, we're talking about innovation, we talk about partnerships. That's how we're going to make sure we are sustainable in our approaches. So, Madam Speaker, the investments in our people and our efforts to create more inclusive societies really, I would say, over the past year have manifested and have been demonstrated in a number of ways, I would say, ways that I'm particularly proud of, and to reiterate some of them. Again, our thrust for inclusivity in our people focus, our draft disability policy, which is on the way. The aging policy and regulations for senior care homes, that's something that we intend to be moving on in 2025 as we complete the disability policy. Because, Madam Speaker, one of the things that I've learned and I've come to realize and observe in working with the seniors is that we have a number of seniors. We have a lot of old people here. We do have an aging population. Lovely people, though. But we also have a lot of persons who are being neglected and abused. And, it's really heartbreaking to see that, I believe for any society, your children are the most vulnerable because all children are at risk. But we cannot forget that our seniors are also at risk. Our seniors are actually also a very vulnerable population because there are people who abuse them financially, physically, emotionally. They just neglect them, forget about them. And some of this abuse, we recognize, takes place in some of the very care homes that are established or supposed to be established to look out for and take care of our seniors. And so we want to be able to develop an aging policy as well as to establish regulations for senior care homes. I think this is important to be able to set a minimum standard of best practices when it comes to caring for those who are aging and vulnerable. And so that's something we're moving on. When it comes to home care, the demand for home care assistance is actually very high, Madam Speaker. The latest numbers I got, we currently have, it is 74 males and I think 94 females who are seeking home care from the government. This is a very high number, Madam Speaker, because we only have 19 home care officers on the books. And so the demand for home care exceeds the number of staff that we have currently at this time. However, thanks to the STEP program, we've been able to employ a couple others. And it is my hope and expectation that, as we think about transform and reform of our social programs, including the STEP, that we'll be able to kind of redirect to be able to get persons trained in areas where we actually have need in the labor market, and that one of those areas is home care, most definitely and significantly. So I want to say that to encourage persons, especially young people, we need more young people thinking about care work as career opportunities, as career possibilities, because we have an aging population. That is just the trajectory of our population. And so the need for home care, the need for businesses that provide senior care and assistance, there's opportunities. We can look at challenges as challenges, or we can also see them as opportunities. So there's opportunity in thinking about establishing business for home care, in thinking about being trained and certified in home care, because there is a growing need for persons to receive some level of home care assistance as they age. So currently our home care program has 74 males and 93 females. That's significant. And we still get calls. So I put that plug out there. For persons, home care is an area to think about for employment. When it comes to youth engagement, Madam Speaker, we like to encourage youth groups to register with the Department of Youth Empowerment. The Department of Youth Empowerment, you would have heard, we would have done quite a bit of work in increasing our engagements with young people. We held engagements on multiple topical areas, as would have said, youth and violence, youth and climate change, youth and CISA, youth and tourism, youth and mental health. All of which are very significant, Madam Speaker. We try through the youth department. I really made an effort and a plea last year in last year's budget for us to get a small little pot to be able to support youth groups, and support and encourage youth groups in doing community work and community projects. And so through the Department of Youth Empowerment, we were able to support a number of different registered youth groups and organizations with us by providing them with some very small grants. We would have assisted over 20 organizations, assisted over 29 organizations who would have submitted formal requests to the ministry for some sort of financial assistance or assistance in kind through facilitation also, or training. And we would have assisted well over 20 community-based groups, youth organizations, in the amount almost near to $20,000 totally, in terms of support for them to do projects within their communities as young people, or groups that are focused on youth engagement and youth development. And so we want to extend commendation and just let the public know that, outside of hosting these different programs for young people, the youth department through the ministry also seeks to support the work of youth groups to encourage their leadership in our communities, because I think that's very important. Madam Speaker, the last month, November, was Youth Month, and the theme for Youth Month was youth and mental health. Mental health matters. This is a particular area that I believe is significant, and it's significant because it is something that the young people talk about themselves. It's an area that they always bring up. And I think we should be concerned because they're concerned. They're concerned about it. Madam Speaker, our children and young people are growing up in a very unstable and confusing world right now. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of wars happening. There's instability happening. We as adults are here wondering how we're going to survive with all of this rising prices, and all this conflict that's taking place, and all this violence and crime. But we can't forget our young people are not isolated. They also know what's happening. And they're also experiencing their own bouts of depression, their own bouts of anxiety, their own fears. They're also angry. They have their own trauma. And so they're going through their own things, Madam Speaker. I would say luckily we do have a number of young people who demonstrate great potential for leadership. And I want to take this opportunity, this time, to mention our remarkable teens who were awarded in November last year right here in this Honourable House. Shout out to the remarkable teens. I also want to highlight the newest CARICOM youth ambassadors who have already been out there and at work, Ms. Siobhan Phipps and Mr. Akwanje Robinson, who are youth ambassadors, new CARICOM youth ambassadors through the Department of Youth Empowerment. And I just highlight this to say, despite all the challenges that we face, we do have some very positive young people who are being role models, who are taking on leadership, who are doing really great things, Madam Speaker. And so I think that's great. However, we cannot ignore the fact that we also have far too many children and too many young people who are traumatized, who we have far too many adolescents and young people who are angry and depressed about their life circumstances. We have a lot of young people who are anxious about their futures, about their own independence and their own ability to earn money. Because young people know if you want to get anything done, you need to have money. And so they themselves are concerned about how they're going to be able to make money, earn money, to escape whatever it is that they may be going through. And this is where we talk about, the mental health of our young people. And I just want to, I say we have far too many, but I'm going to give some numbers here because this is, I think, important for us to think about and consider. We're talking about our nation's children. Just some quick statistics from the Department of Probation and Child Protection Services. When I say we have far too many children who are traumatized, from intake, and this is for the first 3 quarters of the year, the Probation and Child Protection Services reports 177 cases. This is persons who come to the department with some kind of issue around child protection. 177 cases. I feel that's like a lot. That's too many. And these are issues around child protection. When I say issues around child protection, we could be speaking about anything from neglect, physical abuse, sexual assault, inappropriate touching, sexual harassment, unlawful carnal knowledge, suicide, ideation, emotional abuse, the list.
Honourable Member, you are 1 hour in. You have 30 minutes left.
Seriously? Oh, okay. Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. So, but my point is to say 117 intake cases. That's just up to the 3rd quarter of the year. That's significant. And not just that, Madam Speaker, we have 125 children in need of foster care. And we only have 108 foster homes. So last year I did it. I'm doing it again this year. We do have a need for foster homes, foster parents, because there are children out there who really need placement in homes that can give them loving, nurturing, safe environments for whatever reason. But, when it comes to this issue of child and youth development, this is one of the things that I'm particularly care about and I'm particularly passionate about because from the data that we see, especially when we connect it to the realities of violence and crime in our federation, people don't just become violent and involved in gang activity just out of so. We have children, traumatized children, become angry adolescents, Madam Speaker. Angry adolescents become delinquent juveniles. Delinquent juveniles become adult criminals, Madam Speaker. And I see it because I work in the ministries where the pipeline is very clear, very clear. And so when we're talking about the need for us, especially the need for us as a government, as a people, to really come together in partnership to address the issue of violence and crime and these social problems that we're seeing bubbling up and this delinquent juvenile behavior that we're seeing in our young people, it's all of us because it really does take a village. This is not a government problem. This is all of us. This is us. This is a we problem. And so, I need us to pay attention and to sober up ourselves and to think about how are we complicit in the breakdown, we as citizens of this federation, how are we complicit in the breakdown of families? How are we complicit in the breakdown of community? How are we complicit in, seeing these children who are oftentimes considered to be the worst of the worst, but really and truly sometimes they just need a loving, nurturing, disciplined hand around them. Madam Speaker, we have seen over the past year, particularly through the juvenile rehabilitation facility that is known as New Horizons, we've seen an uptick in adolescents who are displaying very delinquent behavior. We have children who have been out here absconding the facility at the location. We've had children who have been being a nuisance to our police officers, to our communities, our societies. And, Madam Speaker, as wards of the state, these children are all of our children. It's not just this administration's problem, it's all of us. And I make a plea, Madam Speaker, to just people in the society, the general public, that if you see a child who, maybe they may have been able to escape from our juvenile rehabilitation facility, but they have New Horizons, they have the uniform of the institution. You mean to tell me that if you see a child, you know that this child is supposed to be at New Horizons, or you know this child is supposed to be in school, you ain't gonna stop the child and ask them where they're going? I mean, how far gone are those days? How far gone are those days? I couldn't be out of school on a Monday, 10 o'clock, just walking around in Bastille, and nobody stopped me and asked me, but where you going? You ain't got to be my mother. You don't have to be my father. You don't have to be my relative. But somebody going to stop me and ask me where I'm going because I'm supposed to be in school. That's the law. And so when people may spot a juvenile who might be wearing literally a shirt that says New Horizons Juvenile Rehabilitation, and they're flagging down a bus to escape a facility to which they are supposed to be remanded, the bus is going to stop and take you somewhere else. You mean to tell me, as a responsible adult, it doesn't occur to you to think, oh, you are a child of the state. Shall I not return you to the institution to which you are supposed to be at? I just said this to say, Madam Speaker, that this is an example of how the whole of society needs to work together to be able to, for us to help each other with being able to manage the violence and crime and the involvement of our young people in these things. It takes a village. We need to get back to those days, I believe, And so this is a plea, of course, when it comes to the development, human and social development, particularly of our young people. I believe we definitely need all hands on deck, especially if we want to shift and change the trajectory and the paradigm of where we're at. Madam Speaker, correspondingly to my point, we know gun crime and violence have been plaguing us, and we all agree, thankfully, that, we heard from the member opposite, we heard from the mover of the bill, that to be able to address this problem requires a whole of society approach. The Honourable mover of the bill would have spoken on multiple occasions about approaching the issue of violence and crime from a public health standpoint. And we're doing that under the umbrella of citizen security, which is actually a United Nations concept and framework, which, as the mover likes to always say, will work. It will work because it is science when we look at the problem from a public health standpoint in terms of how we all take accountability for the role we play in perpetuating cycles of violence and crime. Because in order for us to sustainably address violence and crime, we have to do it in partnership. Again, people, programming, partnerships. In order for any of those things to work, we have to make sure that we work in partnership. We have to recreate the communities of care and compassion that were once there before we had social media and technology to be able to separate us. We really have to think about and broaden our view of life and society to stop being so as self-interested and as self-aggrandizing as persons of the past, and we really need to replace it with a sense of peace and togetherness. Madam Speaker, the member from number 9 would have shared statistics to help make the point that regardless of which administration is in power, crime has been a problem, has been at its highest. And so, I am grateful and appreciative for the caring, visionary leadership of the member from number 8 for his courage and, commitment to taking a very clear and strategic direction and approach to crime and violence by bringing everybody together, by depoliticizing the problem and really, really finding a framework that helps us to look at the problem scientifically, to look at the problem using data for us to really get to the root causes and to be able to develop the kinds of interventions that will help us resolve the problem in the long term. We're talking about real solutions, not the fake pay for peace type of approach, but we're talking about doing the actual work, the consistent work, in order to bring about a true sense of peace and togetherness, one where we have societies where we look out for each other, where family relationships heal, where the community and neighbors look out for each other, and where we can extend some level of compassion and care, not just to individuals, but also to our environment. We cannot talk about loving each other and loving ourselves if we don't also pay homage to our environments. And that is why citizen security is touted as a very comprehensive approach. It not only focuses on national security, which focuses on justice and punishment, but it considers individual well-being and security. That's what citizen security is about. It's about encouraging us and imploring all of us to think about, as individuals, how do we ensure we take care of each other? How do we all play our parts in taking responsibility for teaching and building awareness and civic responsibility for actually creating a country where peace abounds? That is what we're trying to do. And that requires partnerships, Madam Speaker. And so I want to encourage and express the commitment from the Ministries of Social Development and Gender Affairs, Youth Empowerment, Aging and Disabilities, as we, have the work of, focusing on programs and interventions for human and social development. We'll continue to stay committed to driving community and human social development through our programming, through our focus on people, through our focus on interventions, and through our focus on partnerships. We will stay committed to utilizing the budget that has been provided to improve on all of those areas in our service delivery, to improve in making our programs more innovative for sustainability, and to also improve so that we can establish greater partnerships from persons in the community, from across the government in terms of interministerial partnerships, Madam Speaker. We're committed to doing that, and I am pleased as the Minister to be able to work with the Prime Minister, particularly, the member from number 8, on the on accomplishing citizen security, and doing so by driving it and looking at it from a public health perspective. I'm truly happy and pleased to be part of that initiative because I do believe it will work. As the member likes to say, it will work because it's science. We know he's a medical doctor, so he really believes in it. And we have the data to suggest that it can and it will work. So I want to extend gratitude to the people who have formed the Advisory Council for Citizen Security, meet with them regularly, to the persons, the coordinator, Ms. Carey, and the staff who take on the extra responsibilities of working from a secretariat to, especially throughout the 90 days, for the 90-day campaign. That focus was really on getting out into the communities. There were a number of conversations that were had with community members and community groups about violence and crime and how it's manifesting and what persons think needs to be done in order for us to address it as whole of society, and those engagements were quite successful. Grateful for the support of members from the Nevis Island administration. They would have invited us over to also spread the information, raise awareness, because we truly, truly believe this is something that can work, but only if we do it together. And so we'll continue in that vein. Madam Speaker, I know I recognize my time has come down, but concluding now. So
You have just over 15 minutes.
Just over 15? Okay, good, that's good.
I can have,
Okay.
discussion of
This is true. Okay.
discussion of your own colleagues.
It's okay. I want to give room for others. So that was on citizen security, Madam Speaker. I want to reiterate again the vision and view, the impetus for the ministries for which I have direct responsibility. We're really focused again this year in terms of channeling and using the investments that we have, the large investments that are already made in social protection. We just want to be able to improve what we're already doing across the ministry, Madam Speaker. And we want to improve with the focus of on people, of course, responding to our clients, to be able to improve our customer service in our delivery, to be more responsive, to really understand the struggle of persons, to see how we can connect better in, just the established systems that we have, focus on the people, to be more inclusive so that the net goes further, that we're not only just looking at persons who earn the least, but we also want to be able to see how we can support people in being empowered. Programming, Madam Speaker. We want to be innovative in our programming. We deliver a lot of interventions, a lot of programmatic solutions. I'm one of those people who, if it's not working, I don't have a problem with doing something different. And so we continue to stay committed to collecting the data and information on the programs and interventions that we already deliver. I am always open to constructive feedback to see how we can improve on how programs are delivered, to make sure that we reach the people who really need these programs, Madam Speaker. And of course, partnerships. We need partnerships for sustainability. I must thank all of the multilateral partners, all of the local non-governmental private sector partners who work with us. Our community development officers are often out there working in the communities to see how we can host different things in the communities that bring families together, all ages of people together, because we're also committed to rebuilding a true sense of community among us, so that, again, we can truly become the country, a nation where peace abounds. And so with the focus on people, programming, and partnerships, I want to express and, ask for the continued cooperation and patience and support from the general public in the endeavors of both the ministries. I look forward to sharing more in the new year as to what the specific focus, listen out for program and policy changes and adjustments, because of course, as we choose and want to be responsive, we also are committed to being good stewards, the best stewards of the resources that are attributed to these ministries. And if we want to be, we can't grow and improve if there's no change. So when the time comes for change and transition and transformation and improvement, and the various policy prescriptions may have to be implemented, again, we continue to ask and seek out the cooperation and the understanding of members of the public. And just know that when it comes to social protection, it's here for everyone. That we are here to ensure that everyone who needs it the most is able to be maintained at a very minimum standard, where they can have food on their tables, they can have utilities in their house, and that they are able to access the resources and all of the benefits that are ascribed to all of us here in society. We want people to live well, Madam Speaker. We have the highest human development index in the region, and we aspire to maintaining that and to doing better. So with that, Madam Speaker, I would move to my conclusion, which is ultimately just for me to take the opportunity to express the great gratitude and pride that I have to be a senator in this National Assembly, to be a member of this A-team Labour Party administration, Madam Speaker. It really, really is an honor for me to stand in this honourable house as a senator. This is not where I saw myself at this point in time in my life, but I'm so grateful for the opportunity, because I truly, truly believe personally that, you know, the SKLP administration is the best thing for St. Kitts and Nevis. I don't know if I can say that. I truly, truly believe that. I truly, truly believe that. I'm not a liar, Madam Speaker. I'm not going to lie right now. I'm not. And I say that because, you know, like I said, the SKNLP is a party that knows struggle, which I think is why, even at this point in time, we're able to respond to the needs of the people. Not just people who are earning the least, but we recognize that people who are also middle income, higher income, are also feeling the squeeze from the hurricane of inflation, the external squeeze that is outside of our control. And, you know, like any other SKNLP administration, we always try to make sure everybody gets something, you know? Unlike, you know, the $333 million that just went poof that none of us got. But I don't know, maybe it went to Nevis. But I don't want to believe that, you know, it did. Yet we had the people of Nevis begging for fair share. Again, I said I don't want to believe it did. We heard the member absolve himself, but I don't want to believe that it went to Nevis, yet the people from Nevis are still begging for their fair share. I don't believe the members opposite Solai and bad. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. So, but...
You mean these who in here?
Just these who in here, the members opposite. I don't want to believe that the member who presented, I don't want to believe that.
One of them lawyer.
I mean, that may very, very well be the case. Oh, my time is finished? Oh, no. Oh, okay. Okay. Right. So, anyways, what I was saying is, yes, back to the point. SKNLP administration is the best thing for St. Kitts and Nevis. And, you know, I say that again because we really try to make sure there's something for everybody. We talk about inclusivity, and, you know, we have come up with a new innovative measure that is intended to help to cushion the squeeze, the external squeeze that we are all experiencing. I saw a meme this morning, Madam Speaker, that was posted on Facebook that really I felt that resonated with me. And it was actually posted by our former ambassador, Ambassador Shiverton. And it said, "I would rather be a doorman in the House of Labour than a princess in the palace of any other party." And I just... and I saw it, and it resonated. And it pardon? Yes. It resonated because, like I said, Madam Speaker, I think history shows us that under Labour Party administrations, we've always sought to do something for everybody. Dr. Douglas is over there smirking because he knows it's true. We've always sought, even, you know, as much as people have wanted to accuse of, you know, different kinds of things, everybody was getting something. There was something for everybody. It was something for everybody. And so, because we understand, we were born out of struggle. The Labour Party was born out of struggle. It was born out of understanding the plight of the masses. And so we have grace, regardless of who you are, where you're from, who you support. Everybody feeling the squeeze, we want to do something for everybody. The international squeeze. That's what I mean when I say the squeeze. It's not coming from us because we are doing the most, you would have heard. So, Madam Speaker, again, I extend very big commendations and congratulations to all of us here on the government side. We've been working very hard, and I really hope that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis can recognize that the decisions that have been made, that the millions of dollars of investment of your money have been made in areas and projects that stand to deliver and stand the test of time, and that at least in the interim, we have been able to provide some ease for the international external squeeze in the face of this budget, the wallet, as well as the reduction in VAT, Madam Speaker. And it is my hope that with these initiatives that we also have the cooperation of the private sector. The mover of the bill would have mentioned about encouraging the private sector, the private businesses, now that we're reducing the VAT, that they don't, it is the law again, right? AG, that's the law, right? That they also, that they don't simply just keep the prices higher, increase the price in light of the fact that the government is really seeking to assist everyone in one way or another. So, Madam Speaker, with that, may it please you. Thank you.